So in this video, I'm going to go over these different types of UV projections, see kind of which one fits for which model based upon its shape and everything, and kind of little tricks to certain things when you don't really know, in other words, and your object is basically kind of off, in other words. So this right here is not really a cylindrical or spherical. So really, how do you go about UV mapping? Like an object like this, what's the best format? How do you get your image to kind of uniformly stretch to match the rest of the images like this? I have a table project I would kind of like to do for this because it basically kind of like gets you in the habit of like different objects coming together, making them all match, in other words. So in other words, you have like, this is how a table's put together. You know, you have like, usually have these pieces laid. Sometimes if you buy a table like this, you may have like all this is one shape together, but they may have like made these spheres all together. Or the actual people who modeled this or dealing in a 3D world, you know, it's just not like that. So you've got to figure out how you've got to make all these textures work together. So in the image file of the project, I put one nice little source images, sorry. One nice little uniform table. It's a pretty decent size. Actually a very large size. But if you notice, my seams are gonna, there's always gonna be a seam there, and we'll deal with that when we get to it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go and I want to add a checkerboard here to kind of see where I'm sitting at with this thing. So I'm gonna basically select the entire thing, and instead of opening up my hypershader, I'm just gonna right click, assign new material, add a Lambert over here. And instead of just bringing up the checkerboard in the UV editor, I'm going to actually add a checkerboard pattern, so it applies it to all the different ones. And now see, it's all screwed up. I haven't added any kind of maps to it, so but you can see how differently these objects are kind of reading on the UV editor, and how differently it's going to read an image going into it. So if, in other words, I just added that piece of wood or that wood image to it, it's just going to stretch up here, it's going to look real tiny down here, and it's just going to all be non-uniform. So the best thing I can do is go around and apply these different maps to it and try to uniformly get the checkers to match how I want to. I want to start with this one right here. It seems to be the most almost decent one. So I'm going to apply a spherical because that's basically what it is. And already it kind of mapped them out a little better. You could work in the UV editor with this. So you have your UVs right here. I'm going to go to my scale, and I'm just going to kind of, let's get it down to a decent size. Not too bad. Now I'm going to go to this object right here. All right, actually, let me start up here. This is basically a sphere. I don't know if a sphere is going to work for this, though. Or I'm sorry, a cylinder. I don't know if the cylinder is going to work for that. Object mode. That's not too bad. Squeeze them in a little bit. Stretch them out. Down there is twisted. I'm not going to deal with that because it's up underneath for one, and I would actually probably apply a planar map to those faces. I'll kind of go over that with the table face though. This right here is actually a cylinder, so I'm going to apply a cylindrical map to this one. Oops, gotta make sure this is on object mode. Scale. of want it to match that sphere there. There we go. We'll do the same thing to this one. So you see already, just by the checkerboard and kind of scaling the UV maps, already I've kind of got my image map. So if I were to drop that wood grain image on there, it's all going to be the same resolution size. There are some new tools in the UV tool editor where you can apply the same resolution to the other one. I think they came out. Yeah, this get test density, where you could select one, get the density from it, and then set it to all the other rest of them. But for demo purposes, I'm just gonna I'll show you how to do it the manual way. Now wait on these here things right here, these legs. I'm gonna do this face up here. Now how do I go about this face? Because you know, it's, if you look at it like this, you have the face, you have the bottom, then you have like the sides basically. Now if you just apply like a cylindrical map to this whole thing right here, I don't think it really, yeah, it's just going to be a pain in the butt. So what I'm going to do to this, since I'm more worried about these faces across the side and this top face, I am actually going to apply, I'm going to select the faces, these top faces. I'm first going to do this. So I'm only affecting the top face of this thing. I'm going to apply a planar map to this right here. Now with a planar map, you may need to open up your box and make sure that you're going to be on the right axis. So like if I just apply to the x-axis, that's just not what I want, because if you notice, it's actually applying it from the side. So I need to apply it from the y-axis. So I'm projecting straight down on it. And that looks really good. So now I can go and I can scale this thing kind of. Probably should have scaled uniformly. Same as the bottom. What I'm going to do with these sides here, I am going to ring select them. You might as well do this bottom row too in here too. I probably could actually start doing that instead of applying a map to them. That looks really good. Pretty uniform. And just for giggles, I will apply a planar map to this bottom so it stretches in uniformly. Something got messed up there. Selected. There we go. Still kind of screwed my sides up, but I think I'll deal with it. I could actually select these sides and do a cylindrical map to it. There we go. It's looking pretty good. And see, that's how I would apply this bottom one right here, this cylinder. I would have just selected those faces and put a planar map, but I'm not going to do that because you'll never see that, I don't think, and gotta move on. So what I'm going to do, this bottom leg down here is a little different. I really actually only have to map one of them because I can just, once I get one mapped, I'll just delete the other ones and then just duplicate that one that I have properly mapped. You could go in here and you could select this thing and try to camera-based map. You see how it's based it on, you could go and you could cut these things up and everything, but I don't really like that. I'm just gonna try the automatic. Automatic don't look too bad. It fillets the sides out all together, and it kind of puts the faces in little quads. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut all these faces on the top out and then sew the sides to them and kind of lay it out kind of like you fillet a fish, in other words. So let me find these top ones. I'm just going to move these around. Oh, that's the bottom one. I'm not worried about the bottoms. Okay, so this is all my tops. Alright, so I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to go to my edge mode. I'm going to find my edges so I can start sewing these things together. I'm going to move and sew this. So now that's all together one shell. I'm just going to keep working on down the I need is, yeah, this edge right here. And I'm just shift selecting. This is my last one. Cool, so now I have my face out here. It's a pretty nice little face. Now I'm just gonna like sew the edges to them right here. Like these ones that I had accidentally selected. Move and sew. So now the shell's laying out kind of nicely. Let's do the other side real quick. You could drag and select all these, but that may be a little confusing. So I'm just kind of clicking each one. Alright, so now I have this top face here. I don't mind it so much. I want to hit the unfold on it and see if it kind of lays it out any better, because I don't really like these like stretched ones down here at the bottom. You see it's kind of stretching it right here. So I'm going to unfold. And it kind of evened it out a little bit. So if I were to like put it back on here, I'll move these out of the way. And start scaling. I don't mind it so much, but I don't like the way it's kind of like pinched in right there. I'd rather than be more, this, especially this front, be more uniform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these out right here. So now you can actually move these. I wanted to. Cut them, then I want to unfold them. See what happens. I have seams here. There we go. This is what I want to do. I want to move those right there. Kind of out of the way, so when I unfold them, it basically will fold them back. Not fold them back together, but we'll kind of lay this side out more, in other words. So I'm selecting these and kind of moving these around. I know they're cut all the way to right here. Let me just try this. There we go. So see the way that kind of evened this out right here, in other words. And that's about uniform with the top. I could scale it out a little bit more. It's not too bad. I'm going to delete these here. So I'm going to reapply that image. I'm going to open up my Lambert with my checkerboard and just basically delete my checkerboard and add the image. And see how better it looks, or how better it would have looked before. I didn't really put it on before because I knew it was going to be jacked up by, obviously. So I'm going to go into my table project source images file, which is where they are at. And as you can see, it kind of fits the resolution. They all fit the same. Now for this right here, I want to get rid of these edges right here. I went ahead and went into Photoshop and basically fix the seams of the Photoshop image, so I could bring them back in to kind of like blur that seam together. You could either do that, or you could kind of like go ahead and stretch these out to basically to make it kind of uniform fit, because you already have your UV maps set how you want to, in other words. So this right here, see, I want to kind of make that fit right there because it doesn't look bad stretched a little bit like that. I kind of like it. Just move that over. Doesn't look too bad. Basically, my UVs are already set. They're projected on correctly, so I'm able to kind of have that starting point to kind of go with it. I'm going to go ahead and re-add that other one that I made in there. I did this when I blurred the seams together, so you wouldn't see much of a seam, in other words. I took it in Photoshop and cut this side out, flipped it, and blurred it. So I'm just going to apply that one. So you can see my seams are kind of gone right now. The top one I kind of finagled a little bit, but see on my side right here, look, see, it looks pretty good, and you've got this kind of rolling down here. You could kind of move these a little bit, maybe. Yeah, I kind of like it better. way right here. Or scale it in however you want to. These right here, if you wanted to scale these a little bit to kind of maybe try to hide the seam a little bit. And I got my seam there. And for this leg right here, I just am going to control duplicate special. Oh, sorry, I should show you. I have it on a 90 degree on the rotate. It's directly in the middle. So it's going to rotate around at 90 degrees. It's going to add me 3 of them. I should maybe duplicate the proper one. And it already had the texture on it, so. But yeah, that's a way of applying different projection maps, different UV maps to different objects, cutting them around, sewing them around, using the unfold and the layout to basically kind of make them fit in the UV coordinates better. And I'm sure it will come in handy if you got characters or something like that you want to. You could, you know, like I said in the other tutorial, how you could take a snapshot and bring it into Photoshop. You could do it that way, you know, but it just needs to be in that one coordinate where the image is actually going to show for it actually really to work in Photoshop. But you can kind of finagle it by scaling these around sometimes like that in the actual window. So checkerboard, check it with the checkerboard first. Make sure your patterns are all kind of even running. And I really don't like that seam there. How do I get rid of it? There we go. It's pretty good. The image don't look stretched. Still got this kind of running here. I could go in Photoshop and probably fix that. That's because it's like layering over right there. Cool. Sometimes you could kind of make these little odd fun shapes while kind of rotating them. It works with your grain. Most wood grain, you know, whenever it's laid on an object, it's been cut. It'll all be going one way. It might look kind of cool to you can go another way. Alright, so that is basically the different types of projection: planar, cylindrical, planar, spherical. Just remember, if your planar's not working out, you probably need to open the box up and make sure it's projecting on the right axis. That's usually a go-to with one if you're doing faces. The camera-based mapping is a good one for if you want to cut a certain part out, because now I can cut this top out, take it up here and unfold it, and then put it back in the layout. It's kind of a tough way to go, but if you're just doing like part of a object or something like that, maybe a little easier for you. So biggest thing is kind of keeping up with your organization here. So okay, so that's it for then. So thanks for watching. Bye.